favor?
They're all favorable.
Michael?
All right, good evening, folks. Those here in chambers, those viewing online, we are going to start a meeting to receive the public comment and consider recommendation of the Osage Beach Outlet Mall Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Plan. Will you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are you Dan? Yeah. You're here, right there. Come on. Sorry, couldn't see. I thought it was me. I'm high up.
Yeah.
Like I'm
All right, thank you all. Roll call and introduction of commissioners, please.
Alderman Becker.
Here.
Fred Catcott.
Here.
Dan Crane.
Dave Crane.
Dave Crane. I'm sorry, I was even looking straight at
I
it.
can,
Janice Tyler.
Here.
Dan Fry.
Here.
Brad Rozier. Chief Biardi.
Here. Berardi, yes.
Brian Butts. Gail Griswold.
Here.
Greg Hasty.
Here.
James Gohagan.
Here.
All right, now my role tonight is simply to help with to assist in the nomination of the chair. So with that being said, do I have a nomination for chairperson?
Mr. Mayor, I have a nomination. I'd like to nominate Tyler Becker.
Thank you, sir. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? All right, nomination carries. Tyler Becker?
Now we're gonna move seats. Or just take everything.
Oh, I was trying to figure out who that was.
That's all I got to do.
Michael's out of here.
He's gone.
Set.
All right. The chair would ask for unanimous consent on Tara Barrett as the secretary.
So move.
Second.
I'll second.
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
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 I'd like to open the public hearing for the Osage Beach Tax Increment Financing Commission for the purpose of the meeting to conduct a public hearing on the Osage Beach Outlet Mall Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Plan and Project. Roll call and identification of the commission members. Do we need to do that again?
I can if you'd like.
Yes. Yes, please.
Okay, let's do it one more time. James Gohagan.
Here.
Greg Hasty.
Here.
Gail Griswold.
Here.
Brian Butts. Chief Berardi.
Here.
Brad Rozier. Dan Fry.
Here.
Janice Tyler.
Here.
Dave Crane.
Here.
Fred Catcott.
Here.
Alderman Becker.
Here. And now an introduction of the applicant representatives and city consultants and staff. How about the applicants first?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, thank you for your time and attention this evening. My name is Dave Claflin with Legacy Development. On our team is also Chris Foster, his father Dan Foster, his mother Nikki Foster. They're our partners in this matter. Colin Bram and James Quaney are financial advisors, our lead financial advisors, unable to be here tonight due to the scheduling mix-up.
Thank you. And the city consultants and staff, please introduce yourself.
Hello, members of the commission. My name is Mark Spikerman. I'm an attorney with Gilmore & Bell. I'm special counsel to the city. I represent cities and counties throughout the state on economic development and TIF matters. With us today is also Andy Struckoff. He is a planning consultant with PJV Planners. He also helps cities and counties on economic development and TIF projects. And then we have the city attorney, Ed Rucker, as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce Mr. Spikerman, who will explain the TIF Commission's role is to hold a public hearing, receive testimony, and ultimately take a recommendation.
Thank you. Once again, my name is Mark Spikerman with Gilmore and Bell. The members on the dais here are representatives of the various taxing districts that would be impacted by this TIF. Their purpose is to hold a public hearing, to receive public testimony, and ultimately make a recommendation to the city's Board of Aldermen whether or not to move forward with the plan and the project described therein. Thank you.
Thank you. Presentation and testimony from the applicant.
Commissioners, as I mentioned briefly at the outset, the applicant is a special purpose entity consisting of Legacy Development in Kansas City and Horizon Development here in Osage Beach. It's a really unique partnership, kind of combines the best of a national shopping center developer with a developer that has great local knowledge. To explain more about their local knowledge, I'll introduce Chris Foster.
So Chris Foster with Horizon Development Group, and just wanted to give some background on the family that I think most of you know, but just to kind of give a brief summary is that our family's been here since the 1820s, going back to when the lake was formed. My grandfather actually saw the lake fill up. He put together one of the first marines down here called Lake Park. Started doing a lot of the tourism that that the lake has grown into today. And throughout the years, we've been involved in multiple facets of the development of Lake of the Ozarks. My father was involved with Jeff Tillman and Bill Tillman in condo development in the early 2000s and built over 1,000 condos down here at Lake of the Ozarks. Myself personally, I've been involved with the condos coming into things, and then I also got involved in senior living and built an assisted living facility in Eldon called Rock Island Village, which given all the facets of the pandemic that we've been dealing with, we actually got to be 100% full as of today. So it's a very good project, and we also dealt with, we got a tax incentive on that project as well. As far as other things, my mother, Nikki Foster, was always involved in community projects. She did the lighting of the Grand Glaze Bridge, if maybe some of you are old enough to remember that or been around here long enough to remember that. And she was also on the school board locally at Camdenton, where she also served as president. And then after serving on the school board, she went on to be a lobbyist for education for the state of Missouri. Then she also went on to be on the board of the school board for the CMSU Board of Governors in the future. So we've always been involved in the community. We look forward to our involvement on this project, and it's really bringing together, like Dave Claflin said, the national developer expertise and then the local developer kind of fine tuning to make a project that's really, great for the Lake of the Ozarks. Thank you.
This was given to me
Now, I don't want to
separately.
belabor anything. I know everyone has better things to do tonight, and I do appreciate the time and attention you're giving to this and the effort you've expended thus far. But because we're new here, I'd like to just spend a few minutes and talk about Legacy Development's experience and background. The company was formed in 1995. Since that time, we've developed 35 million square feet of commercial space in 14 states, totaling approximately 58 properties. About 20 of those have involved public-private partnerships. So we have quite a bit of experience with public-private partnerships such as this. This is a map of our projects under the Redevelopment brand. Originally, there were 2 additional partners in the Phoenix office, and that's why you primarily will see developments around the Midwest, Kansas City, Omaha area, and the Southwest, the Phoenix area. Since starting Legacy Development in 2012, we've developed, this is our brand map of projects across the country. Almost all of them involve shopping and retail in some fashion. as you can imagine, in the last 20 years, what shopping and entertainment has changed quite a bit. Four things that really haven't changed at all for us are our brand trademarks. I'm going to show you some pictures. I'll try and describe what those projects are, but keep it moving along rapidly. And one thing I think you'll notice is that there is no one consistent design to them. We don't do cookie cutter developments. We don't roll out the same group of tenants in every single shopping center we do. We look for what's right in that particular area and bring exactly what is missing there. We build quality and we build for the long term. We're primarily retain ownership and management of our centers. Occasionally we bring on other financial partners, but really for the most part we hold on to our centers and manage them. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we have extensive experience with public-private partnerships. So some of the show and tell. This is Shadow Lake Town Center in Omaha, Nebraska. This is Summit Fair in Lee Summit, Kansas, a suburb of Kansas City. This is Village Point in Omaha, Nebraska, out west. South Point Pavilions in Lincoln, Nebraska. You can see a kind of consistent theme of public space, a lot of nice amenities, great landscaping, great hardscaping, nice architectural detail, but you do not see a consistent style at all, or even consistency with the tenants. This is Promenade at Chenal in Little Rock, Arkansas. This also is Promenade at Chenal. This one too. This one is 119, has been purchased by Town Center Crossing in Leawood, Kansas. This one also in Leawood, Kansas. Jefferson Point in Indiana. Greenway Station in Wisconsin. Cityscape is a large downtown Phoenix development. Norterra is out in the suburbs of Phoenix. Summit Woods Crossing, one of our early developments in Lee Summit, Missouri. This one also in Lee Summit, Missouri. And back to Village Point. And then the Streets of Brentwood was a redevelopment we did out in Brentwood, California in the Bay Area. So this is, or was gonna be, a video. I understand that the link to both, I've got two videos, one from Steve Arbo, who's the city administrator for Lee Summit, Missouri, who we've done a few projects with, and then Dennis Hayes, who was the county administrator when we developed Legends outlets up in Kansas City. And this was a video of Dennis talking about his experience working with us. I have sent the links to those videos to the mayor, and they might have been distributed to you, and if not, I'd love to share it again with you and make sure that you guys have that, because I feel that hearing from partners we've had before who've been sitting in exactly the seat that you are sitting is valuable testimony, and their experience was strong. And then I want to take just a few minutes longer to talk about the Legends outlets at Kansas City, because this is a project we developed in Kansas City, Kansas, back in the early 2000s that bears a lot of similarities to the project we're talking about here in Osage Beach. Today, that project includes our shopping center, which is about 1.3 million square feet of retail. It has the Kansas Speedway, Sporting Kansas City's ball field, now the Monarchs baseball field. It has Nebraska Furniture Mart, Cabela's, Great Wolf Lodge, and a whole host of ancillary development to it. All of that started with this. Not so long ago, it was really just farmers' fields generating very, very little in the way of property tax and absolutely nothing in the way of sales tax. The unified government the combined governments of Wyandotte County and Kansas City, Kansas, together pressed the state of Kansas to enable star bond legislation, which is basically TIF on steroids, that let them start what has become this entire Village West Legends area. The initial kind of kernel of dust in the snowball was the Kansas Speedway, which interestingly enough does very little in the way of generating traffic for us. In fact, it's our 2 worst shopping days of the year, our days that they hold races out there. But it put us on the map, and it really started the ball rolling in terms of development. This is an aerial photo from 2001. Just 5 years later, Legends was complete, or fairly complete. You can see the western section is still under construction. Nebraska Furniture Mart is built, Cabela's is built, and Great Wolf Lodge is built. So we're off to a great start. But even back in 2006, this was out a ways. It was not on normal Kansas City shoppers' path. Shortly after opening in 2007, we did a zip code intercept study, just a simple study where we had consultants go out and ask shoppers, do you mind if I know your home zip code? And we mapped those. We mapped it over the course of about 3 weekends that first summer, and we found that the average distance traveled to the Legends was 82 miles, which puts us off the charts in terms of super regional mall. It was a fantastic amount of distance to travel, and we're certainly not asserting that people are traveling from Maine just to come out to the Legends and shop, but it does show that we finally put this area on the map, and people were including it in their Kansas City travel plans. In addition to needing to visit Power and Light or the Plaza, this became one of the go-to destinations of Kansas City, and it's become even more so in the ensuing years. Today, this area is the #1 tourist destination in the state of Kansas, generating 12 to 14 million visits a year. And since the development I described in that aerial a few shots ago, we now have added all this other development. Cerner has built 2 office towers. Hollywood Casino is there. We've got a lot of retail now on the north side of Parallel Parkway. More apartments went in to the west. More apartments are under construction now. All of this showing what can happen when a project is well conceived and well done. And then kind of a coda to the end of all this. As I mentioned before, this project was the beneficiary of star bonds. Those star bonds, I understand, they paid off at an accelerated rate. The unified government re-upped the star bonds and spent the money on other things. And this was in, I think it was about 5 years ago, the star bonds were finally retired and paid off, and the city now has an $11 million windfall. And this article was talking about where you're going to spend it. Let's hope you spend it wisely. So all of that showing what can happen when things are done well, and we certainly intend to do things well here.
So the current state of the mall is there are 27 stores open, and through the blight study that is the predominant, page count of the TIF plan that was sent over to you guys, I mean, there's pictures upon pictures about, the degradation of the site that's happened over the years. And I'm not sure if some of you guys received the emails. The one was sent from Mark Beeler, who is the realtor on the Simon property, who has, kind of talked about the process that has been gone through so far. We've been working on this, I'd say, since about February of 2021. So, we're getting 18 months now.
So for people that don't know, how many stores can that mall hold?
So, yeah, at its peak, there were 110 stores in that mall. And I don't know how many stores there were when we first started talking about this, but it has gone down significantly. Just since we've got it under contract, we've seen, just a handful of stores in the past few months. And I think that there's some people that made comment that are from the mall community to kind of give you a better picture and a better understanding of what's been happening over there the past few years. Now, Simon has no interest in doing any redevelopment on the small property. Their focus is more on the primary markets, and their focus is shifted away from these tourist destination outlet malls. So, our concept is to bring a new type of destination, to that property. But at the end of the day, what we're really looking at is the current state of the mall is not the best state that you would like to see it in. And what we're trying to do is press upon the urgency of action that we need to make sure it doesn't get any worse, because our biggest concern is that, if it passes a critical point, that, maybe the mall cannot be, returned to its, former glory. Our plan is to try to, keep the tenants that are month to month at this point, keep them in place, make sure that they understand that we're going to be fixing all the roof leaks, fixing all the air conditioners, and we're going to be bringing more tenants to the property. More activity to the property is going to help sales. So, that's really the thing, is trying to keep everything together while we get this project done.
So what's our vision for the project? As I mentioned a few minutes ago, retail has changed quite a bit over the last 10, 15 years. Everyone knows about Amazon. Everyone knows about the challenges to retail. At the time that this center here in Osage Beach was built, outlet shopping was a destination kind of activity. You would travel down here and add a day on to your stay just to visit it. Now there are other outlet malls and fewer stores here. What we have seen over the last 15 years is the rise of entertainment attractions as a consistent draw in concert with retail. And so what we plan to do, the first phase, is to consolidate the tenants that are in place now. We actually, the tenants that are there now are not doing too badly. They've lost a few big ones over the last few years. And as Chris mentioned, we've got a few that are hanging by a fingernail, and they're on month-to-month leases and not headed in the right direction. But we have very strong interest in a few other outlet brands, and as I said, consolidate the existing outlet brands and move them up into is that the northeast? Okay, the northeast part, that gray, light gray part of the center. So we would redevelop that, fix up those buildings, and then move those outlet tenants up there. We would also add junior anchors. Those are the larger white boxes you see that kind of face Osage Beach Parkway. We have interest from a number of national brands that are not otherwise here in this trade area that would like to be here. In addition to that, we've got location for, we call it workforce housing or affordable housing. Kind of has a negative connotation, but we understand that there is a lack of housing for the workforce down here. Homes have been priced out of their range, and we have room on this site with the consolidation to add in apartments over retail as well as hotel over retail. And then the remaining portion of the project would be devoted to restaurants and entertainment. And I'll describe in a little more detail what I mean by entertainment, because everybody's got a different idea of what entertainment means. We've got a huge amount of property off to the east that slopes down. It's not really buildable, but it's perfect for a high ropes course or a zip line course. This is a 365, or maybe there's a few days it's too cold, but this is a 360-day-a-year activity that is very family-oriented. We've seen it do very well in other markets. We have an LOI from a indoor golf and outdoor golf entertainment attraction. They do very well throughout other places in the market in the United States. We have room on site for a big outdoor food truck facility. We love the idea of outdoor dining, especially if there are umbrellas and awnings and other places that you can go. If the weather's a little bit inclement, you could put up some heat lamps. And then food trucks allow you to mix in new tastes all the time. If you've got a restaurant that's not performing well, or they want to change up the concept, that's a very easy thing to do with food trucks. Here's some more shots of outdoor dining that we really like. And this large awning, you'll see some more shots a little later on from some awning sites that we really like. Man cave garages are a concept that we've seen take off in the Kansas City market as well as other places. These become much, much more than just storage. They're places that people that have motorcycles they're proud of, cars they're proud of, like to have their friends over, watch the game there, play around with cars, fix up the cars, and we've got room on the site to accommodate these. These are images from the Children's Museum in St. Louis and also Fritz's Adventure in Branson. We love these concepts. I've taken my kids to these, and this kind of thing shows really well from the road, from a long distance. They're tall attractions. Parts of them can be enclosed, parts of them can be outdoors, and they're really unique draws for tourism. These are images from a group out of Canada called Moment Factory, who do outdoor lighting experiences. We think in concert with the zip line high ropes course area, you could build in some hiking trails and things that would be really fun to do in the nighttime. We have an LOI from a surf company. They want to do a large outdoor wave, but we think it's probably more appropriate to do on site a smaller contained wave. These still have a lot of variety to them. We think they have a nice symbiosis with the wave surfing that goes on the lake. Could be really fun to program events that are both on the lake and also in the shopping center, kind of hand in glove type of things. This is a view of the Power and Light District in Kansas City, having a large event. Again, it's an outdoor space, but it's under a roof, and it makes it, anytime there's an occasion, there can be a party. This is an awning. It's a large tensile awning that we put on a shopping center in Kansas City, Missouri called Ward Parkway Shopping Center. This particular area had a 4-story Dillard's shopping center on it that could not be repurposed. It ended up being unleasable as office, definitely unleasable as retail space. We tore it down, built this awning, put a ring around it of restaurants, and now today there are events there year-round. We do a tree lighting there. We do a concert series all through the summer. We do yoga. We do kid events on weekend days. They do races. They use it as the start to running races. And it's become something that we really could see working well here, kind of a heart of this community. Pickleball, for those of you who haven't heard of it, what rock are you living under? Come on. This game, it is really fun for even old people like me to play, especially doubles, but you don't have to be really good at it to have a good time, and that's why you keep hearing about pickleball all the time. It's the kind of thing you, your significant other, and another couple can go play a couple games of pickleball, have some dinner, have some drinks. You're not too sweaty afterwards. Hope no one's broken an ankle or hurt themselves trying to do that. You're hitting the ball, but you felt like you were doing something fun. We have a LOI from a pickleball group that wants to add this into our center. Makers Market is another avenue that we really see a lot of interest in. Right now, we're used to these big national brands, and in fact, we love them. We want to bring some big national brands here. But there's also a segment of the population that is looking for something new, something unique, something small, something crafted, perhaps homemade. We think the Lake of the Ozarks area has a lot of craftspeople like that who would like to sell their wares and display them here at this Makers Market. We could see that this being a really consistent draw for tourism. We have an LOI with someone who wants to put a sky wheel up on the high point of the ground. As I mentioned with the children's attraction, we love these towers and things that stick up because they act as their own billboard. This group has put wheels around the country, including in Atlanta. It's a VIP experience with an enclosed cabin, so it's not like the one you saw at the carnival where you were kind of questioning whether you'd make it one time around. It's a lot of fun and really special, and we think it would show off the Lake of the Ozarks area. People would take that trip up just to be able to see the vista. I'll end with a site plan again so I can refamiliarize you, but we see an opportunity to have kind of a Main Street feel to this area. And we love the idea of adding some signage, some elements that really give it a sense of place and create a downtown for Osage Beach, a place that hopefully we would be able to host Santa and other events, and if there was some civic celebration, you'd have it on our lawn underneath our awning down there, and it would kind of become your town square. As I mentioned, we have shown on the plan, we have room for apartments over retail, hotel over retail. These concepts are doing very, very well other places, and we think we can do it in a way that will make it affordable for everyone. So I'll end with that site plan. We've got some printouts of that site plan if you haven't already seen it before. And I think that's it.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, commissioners, for being here this evening. I'm Colin Graham with IR Corporate and Public Finance consultant to the developer.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Dave just spoke about this great project with lots of great amenities and benefits. And with a $186 million investment is what the budget is for this project. The return with no public assistance at that level of investment is negative 1.22%, which presents a very large gap to financing the project. We think we have found a solution by implementing a number of public finance tools, including tax increment finance, as well as some other tools that I'll go over. The specific tax increment finance request is a 50% split of the 50% split of the pilots, which are the property taxes, and a 50% split of the economic activity taxes, which are sales taxes. That would mean that 50% of the sales taxes and 50% of the property taxes would go to the project, and 50% would return to taxing jurisdictions during the term of the TIF. In addition to the tax increment finance, we would ask the city at a later time to consider a number of other tools, including a hotel sales tax rebate and a county hotel occupancy tax rebate, a TDD sales tax, a CID sales tax, a CID special assessment, as well as we will be implementing some private fees and sales tax exemption on construction materials. I would also like to note, with the tax increment finance, the base level of taxes are preserved to taxing jurisdictions. So what the current shopping center is producing in sales and property taxes would continue to go to taxing jurisdictions. So the 50-50 split is only on the incremental taxes produced by the new users.
Can you repeat what you said about the rebates again? Sorry.
Yes.
You're speaking very fast and it's hard to hear, so. Maybe
Yes,
it's just me, but I don't know.
So the
No
tax
offense,
increment.
Yeah.
The tax increment finance piece is the portion that this commission is considering, but the developer also plans to implement a number of other tools to make this project financeable. One of those other tools includes some private fees. Those are private, they act kind of like a sales tax, but they're privately imposed by the developer on the project. So they would act like an additional sales tax, but they are not approved by a city or a county or any other jurisdiction. They're private fees.
Thank you.
So with all of these tools combined, the return on the project would increase to 11.6%, which is not a screaming return, but is enough of a return to get other parties interested in financing this project. So the $186 million budget, of that budget, about 19 million, a little over 19 million, would be the tax increment finance and other redirected taxes. So those are taxes that are in place today that would be redirected to the project. The remainder, $160 million, would be financed by new add-on taxes and fees, like the fees we just discussed, and private investment. That results in less than 11% of the budget being financed by TIF.
Why don't you hold this and talk instead? Because I don't think they can hear you in the back. Try that. That's
Is this better?
That's not going on. Sorry. Try this one again.
Testing? Better? Okay.
Just yell at us. Just
So
yell.
the project, with the TIF portion of the project would be 11%, or less than 11% of the budget, which is well within the TIF policy of 15%. As I mentioned, the remainder of the project would be 89% funded by private investment, add-on taxes, and fees. This slide shows the benefits to taxing jurisdictions during the 23-year TIF term.
Do we have a copy of this presentation?
This slide, I think we can get you copies of this slide. This is an exhibit to the cost-benefit analysis, and it's just summarizing the cost-benefit analysis that shows the benefits with the project and without the project.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, sorry. Keep
So
going.
this table shows the benefits to taxing jurisdictions with the project on the left left-hand column, and on the right-hand column is the benefits without the project, or if the project did not move forward. And this is benefits over the 23-year TIF term, and on the left-hand column, that is accounting for the 50% that's redirected to the project. So this would be tax revenue that is actually available to the district. So for example, on the city, there would be $42 million of tax revenue with the project over 23 years, and without the project, it would be a little over $5 million, resulting in a total benefit to the city of Osage Beach of over $37 million if the project were to be developed as planned. For all taxing jurisdictions in total, this would mean that over $200 million of additional revenue would flow to taxing jurisdictions over the 23-year TIF period.
Where did you all get these numbers at?
These are based on our estimates of taxable sales for tenants that would go into the project and property values based on comparables that we believe would represent what would occur in this market. So this next slide is the benefits the taxing jurisdictions would receive after the term of the TIF. So after the 23-year TIF term, the 50% split no longer is in place, and the city and all taxing jurisdictions will receive 100% of the taxes. So this is an annual benefit, not over any specific period of time. And so, for example, the city would receive $2.8 million in tax revenue each year after the TIF term. I'd also like to point out at this time that these benefits are over and above the base or existing tax revenue that would be locked in by the development of this site. So the city is currently receiving, for example, about $750,000 in taxes, and that is not included in this number. So if both those combined would be about $3.5 million after the TIF term that would be available. And across all taxing jurisdictions, that's over $11 million a year.
Can you repeat that? The 750 is the current amount that's getting, it's not including these numbers, and then it would come after the end of the term, or?
The 750 will continue during the term of the TIF. That's the base.
Right. Okay.
And that would, this project would
That's the base, yep.
secure that, and it's not necessarily, the shopping center is likely to continue to decline without this project, so that 750 isn't even guaranteed to continue to the city. And there's other taxes that also would not necessarily continue to other taxing jurisdictions, not just the city, if the shopping center continues to decline, both on the sales and property tax side. So this project, as Dave mentioned, would cure the blighted state of the project. It would stop the decline of the shopping center. It would stop tenants from leaving. It would bring new businesses in. And it's a really great project. That's one of the primary benefits. The $186 million of investment would bring that to bear. It would also bring, during the TIF term, $2.1 million of annual tax revenue. And that number is also before the base. So the base existing tax revenues would be on top of that $2.1 million. That's $2.1 million in new tax revenue to the local taxing jurisdictions. And just to reiterate, that's about $1 million to the city under the same conditions. And over the 23-year life of the TIF, that is $70 million to local taxing jurisdictions. It would create 700 new construction jobs and during the construction period, and then after the construction is concluded, there would be 700 permanent jobs, some of which are retained jobs that may or may not exist if the shopping center is not redeveloped. This project will bring new businesses to the community. It'll be a great community asset, and this redevelopment would be something that the community should be proud of.
but it needs the TIF assistance in order to complete that. And so this project capitalizes on a unique opportunity to do that now before the shopping center continues to decline. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Dave.
Overall, you kind of see what is happening at the current state of things. The one item that, we really want to, impress upon is the urgency of this process, that if there was, if we had all the time in the world to go through everything, we could take an elongated period to make sure everybody understands everything, in its entirety. What we want to do is impress upon you that, the mall is continuing to decline, and this is what turns it in the other direction. So one item to point out is that when we're talking about the locking in the income from the property, that if this TIF is not done, that the taxes that are collected would continue to go down. And if you look at the property, how our TIF, this is the redirected TIF taxes, is 11%. That's because there's already a high mark that's there. There's $30 million per each year that's collected in sales tax. If this goes down to zero, that's going to be, further detriment on the community. So we just want to impress upon you that we really want to, resolve everything as soon as possible. We're happy to answer questions and happy to, go over everything if there's other items. So thank you.
One last thing, we can move on. I think the most important thing that Colin mentioned here is on this slide, and I know it's a little small to read from these TV screens, but this piggybacks right on top of what Chris is just talking about with the current state of this property versus the vision we have for it. The current state, if you stay the course, IRR calculates that all taxing jurisdictions are going to generate about $22 million in taxes over the next 23 years. About $1 million a year. With our project, you're going to generate $227 million over that 23 years. That's about, I'm terrible at math. Isn't that 10 times better? I think that's an easy decision. So that's why we leave you with this request to recommend the approval of our TIF plan to the Board of Aldermen and to recommend Osage Beach Marketplace to be named as the redeveloper. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Chairman, can I ask a question?
Yes.
To you. Are we supposed to be voting on something tonight?
Eventually, yes.
Okay, that wasn't my understanding or my other board members' understanding that we were voting on anything, just that we were being presented with information.
Technically, maybe the attorneys can help us. I don't think, unless we continue, then I don't think there would be a vote, but the idea is to come to some sort of up or down vote at the end of the evening.
Because do I need to get a replacement? Because
well, it would be up to a majority of the commission to determine whether to vote or to schedule another meeting.
Okay, thank you.
One more thing.
Sure.
So one of the reasons that we're imploring you for an additional vote, or for a vote tonight, and we understood there would be a vote tonight, is that we are under contract.
Who told you that?
What's that?
Who told you there was going to be a vote tonight?
Yeah, it's on the agenda as a vote for the TIF. In all the other jurisdictions we've done a TIF hearing, the purpose is to get a vote on the TIF. If you're not able to vote on that tonight, the project is in jeopardy. We're under contract to close on it by the end of the month. We've told Simon that we doubt we'll be able to finance the project and close by the end of the month. They've extended it because of delays in getting to this point with the TIF hearing. They've extended it to allow us to at least have this hearing with the idea that we would have the 2-week notice period over by the end of the month, and we would have a clear understanding of an up or down vote on the TIF by our close date, which is fairly critical to the project.
So thank you for that information. I represent a 7-member board, and we have not been able to review together, and so I don't feel comfortable voting for anything without being able to talk to the 7 representatives that are elected to my board. And it's not a no or yes, it's just that respectfully, I would like to be able to have a work session with my own team to get more feedback. I just thought this was an information presentation, but I'll yield.
We don't,
No, there's the motion to adopt the resolution.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I think it's important for us to try to figure out whatever we can as soon as we can.
It is listed on the agenda in case you wish to act on it tonight. If we hadn't listed it, then you would not be able to.
Okay. Okay, well, please continue.
Is it this or that?
No, for me, it was just that the proper procedure, I haven't been able to do with my own board. That is the Camden School Board. That's just a protocol thing that I just question.
Is there another consideration, or?
We would either vote on it this evening, either up or down, or continue it for some duration in the future and set up another meeting.
So, well, here's one thought, is that right now, on the agenda, we have testimony from city staff and consultants. Let's continue with the agenda. Then it's testimony from the public. Then there is concluding testimony from the applicant. So I think we can continue to talk through these things. Also, we can, touch on the fact that, this is the TIF hearing, which is the recommendation to the city council. And city council is the one that ultimately makes the decision. So we'll be able to figure something out, within the parameters of tonight's meeting to, make everybody happy. So,
all right.
Let's just, okay, go ahead.
Just a few questions.
Yeah.
Are you guys going to come up with a more fair rent per month? Because I know that's what killed a lot of the stores before. So do you guys have any plans on doing anything like that for the stores that are there now when you move them?
So, I mean, like all this, the process that goes into that, is a little bit of a TBD, but also the answer is yes, because really the economic, the growth of the economy, and a lot of the stores pay percentage rent, that is what helps, get the project going, so.
Okay, and the affordable housing, I asked this to everybody, what would the monthly rent look like there?
Well, the monthly rent, we don't have an exact number on that, but it would be based on the quality of the living, it would be, below what you would expect to see from other projects because of the efficiency of the build that we can do with having all this construction happening at one time. So,
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
Great, thank you.
Go ahead.
Are we at the question asking?
Yeah,
Not really, no.
Okay.
That'll come later.
that's fine.
Okay.
All right.
Finish, I've got some.
I'd like to recognize Andy Struckhoff from PGA Planners, Mr. Spikerman, and, okay.
Thank you, members of the commission. Once again, Mark Spikerman from Gilmore and Bell. I'll start off the city staff testimony, then I'll hand it over to Andy Struckhoff. In preparation of this public hearing, I and other attorneys in my firm reviewed the redevelopment plan. We do believe that it meets the minimum requirements of the TIF Act. In addition to those minimum requirements, the city has adopted a TIF policy that goes above and beyond what's in the statute, and a copy of that policy is available on the city's website if anyone is interested. The proposed redevelopment plan does satisfy some of the elements of that policy, including the fact that it does give 50% of the incremental property taxes back to the taxing districts. The statute actually would allow 100% to go to TIF. But there's also a few points where it differs from the policy. For instance, the policy favors TIFs that are limited to 15 years. This proposal is for the full 23 years. In addition, and I just talked to the developer, we got a little bit of new information this evening, but we had asked for letters of intent and leases. We were told there were none. He's since clarified there are none for retail tenants. We'll have to verify the ones he referenced in his testimony. The policy actually calls for 50% of retail space to have LOI, letters of intent or leases, before it gets to this point. So that's where it differs. And then in the overall size of the public assistance request, the developer correctly states that the TIF, the sort of statutory TIF, the incremental property taxes and sales taxes, is limited to about 11% of the projected project cost. Although when you throw in the other forms of public assistance, including the CID and the TDD, that does jump well north of 15%. And the city's policy is to look at public assistance as a whole, and that TIF in general should be not exceed 15%. In addition, the redevelopment plan calls for the issuance of Tiff Bonds to take all these revenue streams, pledge them together, issue bonds, get an upfront source of financing. That does happen from time to time across the state. It's not necessarily unusual. However, the implementation of that would kind of conflict with some of the accountability and clawback measures that are discussed in the TIF policy. Now, there may be means of negotiating something similar to get to the same point, but those would just be details that would have to be addressed in a redevelopment agreement between the city and the developer that would come after this stage of the process.
That would have to be agreed with by the actual Osage Beach Board of Aldermen?
That is correct, by the Board of Aldermen and then by the developer themselves, yes.
Okay, so that would be, you would come to that point where after we make a recommendation one way or the other, the Board of Aldermen along with the developer would sort out the details of what the actual final contract's going to look like.
That is correct. Your role is to review the plan. If you make a recommendation regarding the plan, that'll go to the Board of Aldermen for approval of the plan. But the actual terms and conditions of how the TIF assistance is paid out, how it's available, what would constitute an event of default, those are all details that would be in a redevelopment agreement approved solely by the Board of Aldermen and the developer.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'd also like to address an issue that you may be aware of. On May 10th, 2022, Kansas City Business Journal published an article entitled Legacy Development's Low Attracts a Wave of Federal and Local Lawsuits. I believe copies of that article had been shared with the TIF Commission. The Low referenced in the article is Dan Lowe, the managing partner of Legacy. The article reports that Mr. Lowe is facing 2 federal lawsuits filed in April and May in Kansas, alleging various security law violations and fraud. And I believe the developer has submitted a sort of response memorandum that was shared with you. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Subsequent to the publication of that article, a third lawsuit was filed. So there are now 3 pending federal lawsuits. They all allege very similar facts. We have no knowledge of the merits of those lawsuits, but they do exist. Similarly, the Kansas City Business Journal article noted that other matters are pending in state court. I reviewed Missouri CaseNet. I can confirm there are other matters pending in state court. I do not know the merits of those cases either, just that they do exist. And then regardless of those merits, until that litigation is resolved, the allegations in those would be material to a bond financing and would have to be disclosed. And it'd be quite an extensive disclosure. Federal security law comes into play here. You've got to disclose all material facts. You cannot omit any fact that would be material or would be misleading if omitted. So once that disclosure comes out and in connection with any bond issuance, it may or may not impact the feasibility of that bond issuance. The city would need to seek guidance from a bank or a bond underwriter or someone who buys bonds to really get an understanding of how that impacts the market.
But there again, ultimately, our Board of Aldermen in Osage Beach would have that information available to them at the time that they.
I would recommend if it moves beyond this stage that more research and analysis be done to understand those issues.
I assume you would get outside counsel to do that.
Well, yes, they can ask me or we would
Yeah.
seek guidance from a bond underwriter.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep. Happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I'll turn the floor over to Andy Struckoff.
On the bond, and I guess you had a close date of the 15th originally? But see, what I'm hearing here is the process is going to go well beyond where you folks need to be.
So the process, so if we get a favorable decision on the TIF, this process, that's, let's say, a 3 to 4 month process, that is after we get a favorable decision on the TIF, then we will work through that process before any kind of bond will be issued. So I mean, everything that we're talking about, having to be transparent, we go through the items. It's just that, let's say, we close, like, the TIF is favorable, we close, that doesn't mean that the money just comes out of the bonds. It just means that we are working through the next step of the process. There's a lot of steps that come after tonight's meeting.
But a favorable vote allows the project to be financed because a financial partner now knows that this is likely coming. We at least have the first step of this done.
But the favorable vote would be by the alderman, correct?
Correct. It is my understanding that this commission is voting on a plan, not the details. Is that correct? Details meaning terms of the agreement, percents of pilots, eats, whether it's bonded or not bonded. That is not what this commission is voting on. Is that a correct statement?
Mostly correct. I mean, some of those elements are embedded in the plan. For instance, the 50% of pilots surplus, that's embedded in the plan, and the plan does reference bond financing as a means of making it feasible. But the specific details, the who, what, when, where, how, those details get fleshed out in the redevelopment agreement and if bonds were to be issued in specific bond documents. And the developer is correct.
That's all done by the BOA. We're not going to decide any bonding capacity issues or anything.
Right. Your role, recommend approval of the plan. One of the findings, though, required by the TIF Act is that enough evidence has been presented to you for you to determine if the plan itself is financially feasible. That is an element within your purview.
So if we approve it tonight, you're going to close on the property.
So if we approve it tonight, then we will get the property, we get the favorable vote, we'll close the property. The next couple steps is going to be working on the redevelopment agreement. Right now, you have a redevelopment plan. You will be agreeing to a concept, or all of it agrees to the details. Am I correct on that, Mark?
That is correct.
So you would not close on the property until the Board of Aldermen approve the project?
We can, but it's the Board of Aldermen approving the project. Okay. The Board of Aldermen approving the project, it does not mean that we are not going to close. It means that we need this favorable approval of the favorable approval of the TIF in order to get to the next step, which is we close on the property. After closing on the property, we would get the bonds at a later date. I mean, we're guessing.
As I understand what you're saying, I'll just try to summarize. If the commission were to recommend approval of the plan to the Board of Aldermen, you would close on the property and assume the risk that the redevelopment agreement, for whatever reason, never worked out.
Yes.
That was the question. That's the answer.
That's, yeah, that's my understanding at least, so I think we're,
Okay,
Then they enter into.
move forward.
I've got one more question. Do the add-ons last longer than the 23 years, or is that forever?
Somewhat negotiable. The lifespan of a CID, for instance, can go 27 years, perhaps even longer. TDDs can go out longer as well. I don't recall, maybe you remember your proposal?
Yes, our proposal would be that the CID would go the statutory maximum of 27 years and the TDD would go 30 years.
Okay, and then I think, I'm not certain, but I think the lady's question in the back was, are there other proposals to the city for that property?
As part of the TIF process, the city received an application, and then under the TIF Act had to publish a request for proposals to see if any additional proposals came in. My understanding, and perhaps the mayor or Ed can confirm, that the city did not receive any alternate proposals. I do not know what other interest in the community there may be.
You don't know if there's other proposals out there?
Nothing has been filed with the city. Okay. That much I can confirm.
Would the residential piece stay in the plan, or can the city of Alderman still not have that? Because that is one thing that we discussed at our board meeting before here, was that the school district does not support the residential part because we could have however many students living there, and now we have to support that without having any of the property tax to help with that.
Right now, the residential is in the plan. 50% of the property tax increment is being redirected to the TIF and 50% going to the taxing districts. That could be changed in sort of a more favorable way to the taxing districts as part of the redevelopment agreement. It couldn't go the other way, though. But that would be at the discretion of the Board of Aldermen and in negotiations with the developer.
Can we ask a few questions about their proposal?
Should we finish with testimony from the city first?
Do I have Mr. Struckoff speak? Or do you have any specific questions for me?
No.
Okay. Why don't we
Just
turn it
Yes.
over?
Good evening, Commissioners. Can y'all hear me okay?
No.
Gotta yell.
No? Okay. If I lean in like this, is this better?
Yep.
A little bit better? Okay. Good evening. My name is Andy Struckoff. I'm with PGAV out of St. Louis. I'm an urban planner, economic development, and development finance consultant. We have in the past served as TIF consultants with the city of Osage Beach. And I personally have worked on these kinds of development transactions and policy questions throughout Missouri, Illinois, Tennessee, and other states across the country. Our assignment has been to review the project's feasibility. In these situations, what I like to do is ask a lot of questions, look for information, help understand the project, help get comfortable that the project is fully baked when it comes before the TIF Commission and the committee is asked to make a big financial decision. So reviewing this project, we asked for evidence of letters of intent or LOIs, as Mr. Schoffen mentioned earlier. We were not shown any LOIs. Mr. Schoffen mentioned that they had a few in hand from some of the entertainment facility operators, and would love to see those. That would be very helpful information. I believe those are from a golf tenant, the Pickleball tenant, and the Skywheel. The Skywheel is also a new concept, new information for us this evening that we weren't made aware of earlier. So far, we understand that the outlet mall still currently houses some retail tenants. We have not seen any evidence that any of those tenants have committed to stay on in the redevelopment. We'd like to understand that situation. We also haven't seen any LOIs or leases from potential retail tenants. As Mark mentioned earlier, the city's TIF policy requires 50% of the plant space be spoken for via LOI or lease, and we haven't met that test here yet.
Could you repeat what you just said?
Okay, so I understand as Mark Spikerman described earlier, the city's Tif policy asks for 50% of the planned development space to be spoken for via letter of intent or lease. And we haven't met that threshold with this project. In the cost-benefit analysis, the developer presents a pro forma in its but-for analysis. And taking a look at that presentation of financial information from the developer, we try to learn some things about how they're financing the project, how they're approaching the project, and how the financing mechanism is going to work. As Mr. Spikerman mentioned earlier, and as the applicant's consultants have mentioned, the TIF threshold appears to be met as the TIF financial assistance part of the program accounts for 11% of the project costs. But overall, the public financial assistance accounts for close to 58% of the total project costs that aren't borne by other people. In the $186 million project cost presentation, there's a carve-out of roughly $71.2 million of costs borne by others or other people's costs. And those costs, that amount of money is not included in the return analysis. So the developer presents their return on analysis on a $111 million project, okay? And of that $111 million, roughly 58% of that money comes from public incentives. Okay, $45 million roughly, or $43 million from private capital sources. Also not included in there is any evidence of any bank financing. There's no bank loan or mortgage included in that pro forma that we could see. Okay, so the sources of financing are all public incentives and private capital. Okay. And the public incentives exceeds the private capital, which means the public is investing more dollars in this project than the private developers are. Any questions?
Question about that.
Yes.
Is the lending institutions that would be involved in something like this, are they inclined to make a commitment to a project like that before they find out whether or not there is TIF money available or TDD, or, I mean, is their desire to make a loan on this project going to be framed around the ability to have these type of, basically the TIF financing? Do they need to see that?
So the way I understand this project would proceed would be via some sort of bond financing. And an underwriter would look at this project, and the underwriter would look at this and need to know something about what the source of credit is, right? And in this case, the source of credit is the conceptual redevelopment of the outlet mall, including the projects, including the development components that Mr. Schaffen described earlier. What an underwriter would like to see, and we work a lot of underwriters, I'm not an underwriter, but they tend to like to see, depending on the underwriter, depending on the type of project, and kind of depending on what part of the country you're in, because in Colorado, sometimes people sell dirt bonds and bonds on projects that aren't anywhere near reality, but there's a plat that's been filed and there's a plan on file somewhere, but they have very loose commitments, and people sell bonds on those projects. For this type of project, if you are, let me back up a second, and on those kinds of projects, there's a property tax levy that's the source of repayment. And it's a property tax levy that you know is there because it is imposed by a public body, okay? This type of project, you're banking on sales taxes from users that aren't committed to the area, so I'm sure some underwriters would have questions about those. The private fees that the applicant's consultant described earlier, these are described in the plan of the cost-benefit analysis as a general improvement fee, and those are privately imposed fees. But again, there's no commitments from any people, at least not that we've seen, to occupy the space and impose and collect those fees. So those are all questions an underwriter or a bond person would have in looking at this project. It would all, I think, need to be answered to some satisfaction before, at least I think, before bonds could be sold.
So you said that you would want to see a 50% occupancy, and they're at what, 24 right now?
They're at, I don't know what percent occupancy they're at right now, the outlet mall.
27, it's about 25.
But they don't have any LOIs from any existing tenants to stay once the property is redeveloped, at least none that we've seen.
But right now, many of the existing businesses that are there are on a month-to-month. There's no long-term commitment at this time.
That I don't know.
Yeah.
I might have a question then. So if there's 27 out of 110, you're about 25% now. I know there's no commitment. I understand that. But what I'm more concerned about is when you were talking about that the 58% of the cost is by public funds. Other than, so what is it other than these, the property tax and the sales tax reduction to 50% are there other than the CIDs? I understand that, but the CID is going to be paid by the consumer, correct?
Right, the CID sales tax, the TD sales tax, there's a CID, could be a
That's
specialist.
going to come to the 58%?
Those are all roll into the 58%, and also the general improvement fee, or the GIF, which is another private fee added on to the sales taxes.
I'm not sure I understood that.
Okay, so it's, I try to explain the general improvement fee concept. So it's, in Colorado, they use this tool that is called a public improvement fee. And it's a contractual arrangement between the developer and tenants within a commercial project. And the agreement is that the tenants will collect a fee equal to a certain percentage of sales, so that way it works like a sales tax. Or it can be a flat amount, like for the entertainment uses, it could be a $5 per ticket fee.
But it's going to be on the end user, the end consumer, correct?
Correct, and it would show up on your receipt under the
okay.
sales tax line. Here's the other fee that you paid.
But there's no other, those CID, that's all the end consumer. The
Right.
sales tax and the property tax
Right,
is the 11%.
right,
And what makes up that other, whatever the difference between 58 and 11 is all made up by the end consumer.
correct.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any questions?
Can I ask a question? Mr. Gohagan, you asked the question about costs for rent at the, what are they going to do when the mall, they own the mall, and what's the rent going to be like and that sort of thing? I think you asked that.
Yeah.
Isn't there somewhere in the plan that says that you intend on charging $2 a square foot as a premium? And was that not built into the plan? Or is this something I dreamt?
I think you dreamt it.
There's a $2 square foot special assessment, that's the additional property tax.
So then it would be $2 a square foot higher.
So what I would imagine is that the market rent is the market rent. So if there is a $2 per square foot gift then that would be, the market rent would be the market rent. So if there's an additional $2 gift, that the tenant would pay the same rent effectively because it's factored into it. So effectively, it would be a deduction off their rent in order to participate with the gift. So there isn't any rent difference.
So the rent would stay, whatever it is, and the $2 then is coming out of not necessarily the tenant, but it would come out of of what their rent is without increasing the rent by $2 a square
I
foot.
mean, basically, within the economic theory that it's going to be fleshed out across the board. What we're doing in accordance with the policy, we're including all transparency of all the possible, revenue sources that we have available to us. So that's why, we just want to point out that this is everything that is a potential availability. And as far as a 58% of total public funds, one of the items is there's a cost to others that's in there, because those are costs like, let's say, the pad site for a hotel. We are not going to build and own and operate a hotel. That's a cost by somebody else. So as far as the 58%, that number is not exactly, I'm not sure how to accurately look at, what is being, what goes to the developer versus to the hotel operator, because they're going to have input in that as well. And that goes along with each individual portion of the project that we're looking at.
Chris, while you're standing there,
Yes.
Along with the rent thing, I know it's not our time to ask questions, but if you have month-to-month people that are not on solid grounds financially, and you're asking them to relocate up to the front of the mall, in that package, there was relocation
Yes.
allocation in there. Would you support them and financially help them relocate their stores and remodel to get them to the front? Because
Yes.
if you don't, and they have to pay that, they're going to be gone.
That is part of the process, is that we have an allocation of $50 per square foot improvement. So when we're talking about improving the facility, if you're able to make a lot more money than, the rent that's absorbed, becomes a different issue. So it's part of bringing everybody to the front and, spending more money on the space that's around there, because if we go through, fix the parking lots, fix the air conditioners, fix the roof leaks, these are all going to be expenses that need to be, fixed. And in order to accommodate those, we expect these tenants to do better by sales-wise, so their sales increase, but we have an increase on the assessed property tax. That's where, the balance and the dynamic of everything comes into play. So that's one that, again, looking at these, these factors, it's a matter of really what's in front of you right now, because if nothing is done, then what happens? What happens to the mall if we just let it sit there? Because it's not going to fix itself.
Hey, Chris.
But
Can I interject?
my point was the relocation cost of those individual stores.
We are paying that.
Okay.
Yes, sorry. Okay.
Let's get back to Mr. Struckoff. We will all have a chance to answer questions
Yeah.
to either party here in a bit.
That was my presentation, unless anyone has any more questions.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Struckoff?
You did say that you had not seen any letters of intent for financing, correct?
Correct.
Can you, on the whole 11% on the TIF,
Yeah.
are you on that page?
No, I don't have it right in front of me.
But I mean, is that something?
Oh, I
I have a very hard time understanding how you come up with those, not you, but how the numbers are derived.
Thanks, Mark. So there's a couple different things happening here. So, because in the plan, they characterize the total project as costing $186 million. And so then the TIF assistance being, so it's 18.2, right?
Yeah, so roughly 18 million over 186 gets you
11%. But then, where I get confused, in the cost-benefit analysis, where they lay out their return analysis, where they show it's a negative return without TIF and a positive 11% return with TIF, it's compared against $111 million. So that's carving out the hotel and apartments. The hotel and apartments, right.
That's correct.
Yes.
So
18 over 110 is 16, 17, basically.
Right.
Since if the plan is dependent upon a third party building $71 million of the project, I guess I just struggle a little bit on how we're figuring what the actual TIF is going to be. And I know that's not our role. And I know that the aldermen are going to have to deal with it. But the other side of it is I know there's a real need to move forward. But, you know, it looks like there's some serious roadblocks along the way, potentially. And the percentages, and it's spelled out in the TIF plan, the max is 15%, I believe.
Well, it's spelled out, the TIF is 15%.
Right.
The others can be
If you like, I'd be happy to read you the paragraph in the policy. Would anyone like that?
I mean, I've got, but
It's not our role. That's the alderman's role. That's not our role. We don't care about what the TIF rules are.
While that's being pulled up, I did want to mention that we look at this project holistically, so we can't just develop the $110 million project that is being presented as without the cost by others. The whole project needs to be built at once in a cohesive manner. And so while those project costs are not being borne by the developer directly, they are project costs, and the people that would be building those other components of the project also would need their proportion of the incentives in order to complete their parts.
And as I read this paragraph, it's not, I think it does provide some discretion, but I'll let you just hear it, and obviously you're the decision-making body here. Page 5 of the city's TIF policy. The total amount of TIF assistance for project costs for industrial, manufacturing, office, retail, and commercial TIF applications should not exceed 15% of the total project costs, including all hard, soft costs, and developer fees estimated for the entire project. All other public assistance contemplated or requested for the project must be disclosed in the application or added to the application as soon as they are known, and will be considered by the TIF Commission in evaluating the proposed TIF project and application as a whole.
Any other questions for Mr. Spikerman or Struckoff?
Just lost in the paperwork.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to testimony in favor of the plan. All witnesses, please give us your name and ward number and sign in on the witness sheet, and you will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Would anyone like to speak?
Thank you, members of the commission. My name is Sean Scheffler. I'm the store manager at Eddie Bauer at the Outlet Mall. I want to thank you guys for your commitment to us and to the city, as well as to the Lake of the Ozarks. It means a lot to us and to our business. So thank you for taking the time to do that this evening. I want to speak to maybe and put a face to the voices of some of the things that I've not heard addressed tonight. I know it's your job to be responsible for all the mechanics of the TIF and things of that, but there are a few things that I would like to bring to heart, and that's the people that work there. We are part of that project. This is my career choice. I have been in retail for almost 30 years. I'm set to retire through retail. All of my benefits are through there. It's not a second-class job that I picked up. It is a career choice that I made, and there's a reason for that. There's a passion that I have for the guests that visit to the Lake of the Ozarks and to Osage Beach, and that visit our stores, and not just the stores that I work at, but the other stores as well. am so thankful that the city of Osage Beach is known as the heart of the Ozarks, or Lake of the Ozarks. It's advertised that way, it's known that way all over our state, and people know that, and we're a part of that community. What you do here in the city of Osage Beach impacts the entire lake area and the surrounding communities and the other counties that are not represented here tonight. So you guys are pace setters and leaders in your field for what we do in our field as well, and for that, I'm grateful for you on that. As I continue to watch the mall decline, and I've been there for 30 years, I've been in its heydays. I've been there where I had to get to work 2 hours to get here early so I could make it on time, and 2 hours to get home. I live on the other side of the lake. But I did that because it's a great place. I love watching people, when it rains, flood the mall. They come to the mall. That is another thing for them to do. We always secretly pray for a day of rain on a weekend so that we can make more money. Naturally, we're there to do business for those things. But you know, it's hard to watch it because that's my home. That's where I live. I spend a majority of my time there outside of my family life and community activities that I do. I'm not asking you to explain to me all the details of the TIF. You guys have all done a great job tonight doing that on both sides of that. But I am a face, like I said, to one of those people that are represented in this project. I want to mention money. I don't understand $186 million. I wish I was paid that. I think any of us would be on that. But I am paid well taking care of my family. In 2012, our family hit a 2 million mark on medical issues. I just came from Barnes Jewish Hospital with my wife today, who had a major brain surgery over the weekend. This year alone, she's been in the Lake Regional Hospital 14 times and the University of Missouri twice. She's had major medical issues this year, all of which would not have been taken care of had I not had the health insurance or the PTO time that I have off. So as you're making your decision, I ask you to lay aside maybe the indifferences or the things, definitely research things.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
How y'all doing tonight? My name is Brian Ivy. I work for Clark Shoes at the mall. I've only been here as a resident since 2014. It wasn't my intention to go into retail, but I'm a disabled vet. I don't say this job, without this job, I'd really have to get something that would have to help me with what I have, the issues I have. I don't see myself finding any place else to work because of my health issues. My wife also works at the mall. I don't get enough, what would you call it, disability to just kind of fade away. What I've seen over the years, and I've only been here since 2014, I've seen the slow decay of the west side, and without this kind of project being taken on and revamping this, I see the decay just moving on down the road. Because at some point in time, I believe if we don't do something with this side and kind of start pushing it back over here, you might as well take the city hall and move it next to Hy-Vee, because that's going to be the town center. Because without that there, I have people from St. Louis, I have people from Kansas City, I have people from Iowa, Arkansas. They come down there and they come to the mall, and it's like part of their late grind. They come down here, they spend time at their condo, they spend time at their house, they spend time at their cabin, B&B, Airbnb, whatever it is. They go to local venues, one I know that she's a part of, other things that they partake in. But this is part of their grind. If we get rid of this, and I hear about a lot of LOIs, well, without the uncertain future of our mall, of course, I'm sure we'll get some LOIs, because if we know that this is going to become something epic, which I believe it will be like a town center, like I've heard. If we build on this, I think it'll be a jewel. You know, we got the casino. It's a pending thing. Well, forget the casino. Let's bring them back over to this side, because I see too much stuff going up the road. And granted, I know it's still part of Osage Beach, but what happened to this side? Let's concentrate on this side. Let's get this kind of going back this way and start pushing stuff back down the road. Because again, I've seen Woods is not here anymore. We don't have a grocery store with any intent to be there. We have nothing on this side of town. I live in Lynn Creek, and I drive back and forth every day to work. Again, it's just one of those things. I believe, and I appreciate you guys. I mean, without you guys, we you know, it's kind of hard to do this, but if we don't do anything with this, I just don't think the future of this side of the town is going to be very, very good. And I appreciate your time, appreciate you letting me come up here and rant a little bit.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Good evening. I hope I can talk loud enough. I'm nervous. My name is Michelle Froge. I may be the longest running employee at the Outlet Mall. I've worked in the mall for 33 years. Currently, I'm at Brooks Brothers, and I've been there for 26. Before that, I did back to school shopping when the mall was just one little section up at the very top with Swenson's. It's always been the must-go place, the destination for Osage Beach, an experience coming to the lake. And it's definitely not that now, but we hear it on the daily. What do you know? Are they going to fix it up? We miss it every day, multiple times a day. And it's hard to tell them that we don't know. Every town needs a heart. Every town needs a city center, and I think everybody's been kind of speaking to that tonight. Camden has the square, Lake Ozark has the strip, Eldon and Versailles are fixing up their downtowns. Osage Beach needs that too, and this project seems like that could be that. Any developer can put in a strip mall or another big box store. This seems like a project that could actually get more people to Osage Beach. Not just the tourists, but the community. It'd be good for the community as well. And that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Anybody else that would like to testify on behalf of the plan?
Hi, thank you very much for having us here today. And I'm the manager at Journey Shoe Store. I am the last store that's all the way in the back of the mall. We're doing great, honestly. We get people and come and seeing us all the time. They love seeing our happy faces, and we're always there for anybody. But the one thing that I see every day, just like she was talking about, we have people from out of town constantly coming in saying, we want this place good again. We want the mall back. I want the mall back because I love my job. I absolutely love the mall. I've lived here since I was like 11 years old. I've only been a manager at Journey Store for 4 years, but it's absolutely amazing. I can be myself, and I've always thought that about Osage Beach and how the mall is. I would love to see this project to happen, because if it doesn't, then I lose my job, and then I have to move far away, and I don't want to do that, because Lake of the Ozarks is my home, and I love it 100%, and I feel like everyone feels the same way. And I think all these things that are going to be happening that they've talked about is going to increase so much. If you think about it, all these bars that are just opening up for people to drink and party and all this kind of stuff, what is there to do for teenagers? Teenagers don't have anything fun to do in Osage Beach or Lake of the Ozarks. Yeah, you have the lake, that's beautiful, but sometimes people can't get on the lake. They don't have enough money to get on a boat and go on the lake. We need something for kids to enjoy too, not just adults and 21-year-olds partying and drinking. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Beninati, and I don't work at the mall, but I shop there all the time. One of the things I just wanted to say is that I actually work with a lot of builders and developers across the country. I write commercial insurance, and I don't know these lovely folks, but one of the things that I'm seeing with my clients is that an entertainment center and the way that they're approaching it is just the rage, and it's really bringing a lot of revenue to the, to the areas that they're doing it. And what I loved about this plan, which actually I thought was more dynamic than what some of my other clients are doing, is they're looking at things that you just are kind of dreamy, like the light walk. And I don't know if you guys have ever done that, but those things are just so dreamy. And I think that they've really looked at appealing to everybody when I look at this plan. And I look at a lot of these plans and stuff like that. So in fact, we're doing a $40 million bond right now, and that's nothing to you guys compared to what you guys are doing. But I just wanted to say, as somebody who loves that mall, and I shop there all the time, that those people that work there are so amazing. I mean, aren't they just like the most amazing people? And they're so, we talk about it all the time about bringing, more business to them. And I don't know what the other options, what I was saying to you is like, is there something else that you guys would do besides this? I mean, I don't know. Is there another opportunity on the table? Because it just seems like the only opportunity is like they die there or they live. Right? I don't see any, unless you guys know something that we don't know. And that's what I was asking. Sure. But if there's not another opportunity, then the only other opportunity seems like that they either survive and thrive or they die. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Marlene. I work at the cosmetics store in the outlet mall. I'm the assistant manager there. I've been there probably close to 8 years. I've worked in probably 5 different stores in the mall, anywhere from probably the most fun job I had was at Harry and David, and I think everybody probably misses them. But over the past 6 months, I've battled cancer. I've survived. I've been cancer-free since January. And without that job and the insurance, I would probably be living in my car. So, and I enjoy retail. I left it for about 2 years, and I was sitting at a desk, and I'm going, it was winter time, and I had all my projects done that would normally take me a week. I had done them in one day. I was looking around going, what am I going to do for the rest of the week? And so I went back to retail, and I love it. I enjoy the public. I enjoy working with people. Some days, probably all of us that work retail, we have days that aren't as fun as others. We always have challenging customers, but they make our day. I mean, they make our day. It's fun, But yeah, so do something with it and bring it back. I mean, so many people say that there's nothing for kids to do. We've lost that family draw, where there's places to take a kid that they can have fun. I mean, like somebody said, the Strip, it's bars and tattoo restaurants. Bring something back. Yeah, but that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen Voorhees. I'm a senior assistant manager at Under Armour, so I am one of the big dogs up there. Been with the company for 9 years. Out of 263 stores in our company, we were number 5 at producing Moneymaker last year. Over Kansas City, St. Louis, and Branson. Branson was number 1 in our company. So our little store does pretty darn good. So I would really hate to see something go. And honestly, look at what they showed us that they're going to do there. Who wouldn't want to come to Osage Beach? Our mall is not going to just be the only one benefiting from this. You got all the hotels around here. You got your restaurants. Everybody, I've seen an increase just from the ballpark that was built out in Max Creek coming into our store. All those sports events, those tournaments, baseball tournaments, people stay here, they come and they shop at Under Armour. I wish Nike and Adidas were still here, but they left due to the circumstances of COVID and all that other kind of stuff. But Under Armour is sticking through. We do have a year lease. So there are stores there that are leasing. I think Bath and Body, if I wasn't mistaken, I think they have a lease with Simon until like 2024 or 27. I know the manager, one of the managers at American Eagle, they have a lease also. So we are not renting month to month. We were renting month to month up, and when our lease ended in 2021, we were like, oh my gosh, we're going to be out of a job. What are they going to do to the mall? Blah, blah. And then Mr. Foster came in and said, hey, look, we're interested in buying. We just want to come around and talk to you guys. How's your store doing? He walked to all the stores, he said, not just us. So I thought that was very nice. And we were so happy. We're like, oh my gosh, thank God somebody's going to buy the mall. They're going to do this. They're asking questions. What would you like to see in this mall? They told us, we do not want to take away from anybody else. They don't want to put something in to take away from Mite or Mike's. They don't want to close anybody down. They just want to enhance Osage Beach. Been here 22 years. I've lived in St. Louis. I've been coming to the lake since I was a little girl. This is the heart of Osage Beach. When people come to my store, they're like, are you quitting? Are you moving? No, they want us there. They just want to see it vamped up and remodeled. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Deborah Stefanski. I'm assistant manager at Eddie Bauer. I'm also assistant manager at Osage Village Inn. And so the mall greatly impacts the people that come through Osage Beach. And I'm speaking on behalf of our customers and our people that come here. I almost go hoarse by the end of the day explaining to people what's happening to the mall and their desire for them to have a mall. They say one of the reasons they come to Osage Beach and have the activities of the lake is also the mall. It's always been a major attraction. One of the things that Osage Village Inn has always done is the packages for the shoppers. They come and stay. We used to give them the coupons for the discounts over at the mall. We had ladies that would come to do Christmas shopping, and they'd bring cookies and everything. It was a big event for the weekend. I mean, it was party time, and you would not believe the amount of packages that hit my lobby from them girls. So, and 4 or 5 years ago, they started saying, we got to go home and finish our Christmas shopping now because so many of the stores are closed and we can't complete it here. And we don't want this to end because this is our girls' weekend. We've done this for 20 years. You know, so anyway, my appeal to you is for the shoppers that come here, for your people that come here. Not everybody spends all their time on the lake. And for sure, when it rains, when the guys are golfing, when they're out fishing, what are the women doing? The women are shopping. And so we have delightful people that come to the lake. Retail is not my top thing to do, but one of the things I do it is because I love the people and I love the people I work with. And so the mall has given great opportunities to be a major attraction and a major draw, not just for the lake activities and the partying and everything, but it is a vital, vital part of why people come to the lake, that we have a mall that they can come to, do their shopping, do their family events with. It's a major thing, and it has every day, by the end of the day, I'm saying, boy, do I have to tell this story one more time, because the people want their mall. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. David Morgan, I'm current operations director of the mall. I'm an Simon employee, and I'll make it very clear, I'm not talking on behalf of Simon. I'm just talking generally. You mentioned how many kids could, the mall support and the revenue to the school district and the additional kids, but as time has gone on, that revenue through sales tax has decreased. So how are those modifications being done to take services away from the kids? I do know something, what Chris had said before is there are many leases that are month to month, and that is basically every month to month lease that has this. I've been there 4 years. I've shut down over half that mall. I've walked in and I've hit those switches and watched those ladies cry, fall in my arms. I've been here 20 years. My kids grew up here. I've been to every store. It's pretty emotional. It's pretty emotional. And that's what's going to happen, and it's going to happen, it's going to pick up momentum. I can say that with some certainty, pending some things going on now. So just be aware there's the people impact. I'm telling you from a management standpoint, I can't say because I don't have any inside information, but I can tell you what those month-to-month leases means that they got a 30-day kick out, and tomorrow, here's our 30-day notice, they're going to start packing and leaving. And so whatever 2% you're getting, and two, the city, Nike left. When Nike left, that was probably the equivalent sales tax to, some very nice city employees' salary and benefit loading. There wasn't anybody from the city coming over trying to figure out how it's going, how to fix this. These guys are coming in trying to fix this and get money back to the city instead of the city just sucking the money out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, David, can I get you to sign this for me, please?
Don't make him sign in. Come on.
I have to. None of them are.
Well, I know exactly how you guys feel. As a former mall employee myself, I know how explaining that every day to your customer base and that feeling of impending doom from, what's going to happen next month or the next day after even. I mean, I've seen the Hatchet store closings where they just, put tape over your door and then you're out of there, and that's horrible. And I kind of agree. I mean, trust me, I've voted against TIFs before. Everybody probably knows that in here, but I'm pretty soft on this one because what is going to happen down the road? Is it just going to become a vacant parking lot? I don't know, but if you historically look at it, that's the way it's going right now. So I would strongly consider, we're just voting on the TIF, right? We're not voting on any of the details, the bonding or anything. Is that correct?
It's like
That's
half.
my understanding with some embedded parts of the 50% of the pilots and eats.
We're just making a recommendation to the Board of Aldermen.
That we endorse this plan.
That is correct. You're making a recommendation regarding the plan. Now, the plan itself has the 50% of the real property taxes and includes the bonding, but the details of how that would actually be implemented would be in the redevelopment agreement, which is in the purview of the Board of Aldermen.
Do you want to let the public comment?
Okay. Anyone else like to speak in favor of the plan? Step on up.
Oh, here we go.
Have you all heard the one about, no, that's not it.
Trouble now.
My name is Dan Foster, and I'm one of the partners involved in this. And this came to me rather circuitously through another project I've got going on. Dan Lowe came down here to look at it, the hotel project, and didn't particularly like it because he was a shopping center guy. And by that time, Chris had heard about the one here. We took him over and showed it to him, and he liked it. Now, I can say that I probably have something in common with everybody in this room, and that is that we all want to do what's good for Osage Beach. I think that is a common thing, but now we've got a blighted mall that hasn't had a coat of paint since 2016, and the developer, the shopping center developer that I was talking about, he's interested, and he's willing to put money on the line and go. And we've been trying to put a deal together ever since. And I will just tell you that Dan Lowe, I've known a lot of people, and I've worked with a lot of people. And I know an honest guy from one guy, a guy that's not. And I'll basically put myself on the line and say Dan Lowe is a good egg. He's got plenty of capacity to do what he's trying to do, but the project has to make sense. And I think that's a good prevailing business thing. But the fact that he's got lawsuits against him, I don't know of any developers that haven't been sued. And that's a common situation. And as I understand correctly, the suits that we're talking about with Lowe is they haven't even been adjudicated. Anybody can sue, but these haven't been adjudicated. Now, the other thing I want to mention too is our TIF doesn't endanger the city of Osage Beach. I understand that everybody wants to minimize exposure and embarrassment and things of that nature, but Osage Beach has got a problem right now and they need to do something about it. And right now, we're under contract. That contract ends, and I may be divulging a little bit too much here, but that contract ends on June the 29th, and we've got it worked out so that we can get this recommendation, have the meeting with the Board of Aldermen, and do what we need to do. That's my understanding, but we've got to do something now. We can't say, let's wait, Gail, we can't. We just can't. I mean, because Simon and I heard him say it with my own ears. We're not going to give you another extension to your contract. And we've had to have extensions, if nothing else, to deal with the bumps in the road that have been thrown before us. And they have been. As far as the TIF is concerned, the IRR folks, they've done multiple TIFs, and they know what they're doing. I mean, the fact that things don't exactly look right or whatever, well, they never do. They never do. Nobody comes in with a big star on their chest and says, one last thing I'll just say, if you look for the good in things, you'll find it. If you look for the bad in things, you'll find it. Let's look for the good.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak in favor of the plan?
Saying they were fifth. I talked to one store down there, and yeah, I wanted to believe them. I think their home base is somewhere out of Florida. They outperformed every other store. And even a store that was in a pretty good sized city that had some more boutique-y things, so they'd, oh, I know where you got that. They're trading things back and forth. There's people that are working their butt off to keep that place alive. Yeah, it needs something done, but if I could, I don't know, maybe the city can give me the information. They changed management, and it wasn't, I don't think it was a year after that, they changed management again. And when they did, we were in trouble then. And then they came to Simon and expected him to perform miracles. This one store says, I'm not going anywhere. This is awesome. They work hard. You guys work hard. Good luck.
Joanne, could you state your full name, please?
I'm in trouble, aren't I?
I just wanted to write your
It's
name.
Joanne Fry, and I was brought up in real jewelry store, retail. I love walking around, hearing what people are saying.
Now I'm in trouble.
Yeah, all right here. Spending their husband's money while the men are out in the golf course. We're in a boat.
Something else. Oh, yeah. Well, I'll give him. I'll give that guy.
Yeah, he gets passed.
Sorry, Dan.
Oh, is it his wife? Oh.
Anybody that knows him, feel sorry.
Hi, thank you for taking your time to listen to us. I'm Judy Ronmeyer. I'm an assistant manager at Chico's. Last year, our store was #1 in the outlet division in the entire country. This year, we're running real close to that again. Our district is the St. Louis district, and we are #1 in our district, not just in sales, but in conversion, average dollar, everything. I've worked in the mall for 20 years, and this is my livelihood. And The customers are like our family. And I just hope you really take some good consideration with this and help us. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we definitely want to stay.
Anyone else want to provide comments for the project?
I wouldn't mind Ed just asking a question. It's something that I've done in the past. How many people here tonight are in favor of this project proceeding? Opposed? Okay. Just something I wanted to know.
All right. Seeing no others, I would like to open up testimony for anyone opposing the plan.
Well, yeah, you better just sit down if you didn't raise your
Anyone?
hand.
Call the question.
I'm just kidding if somebody wants
Can we call the question?
All right. Seeing none, is there anyone else that would wish to comment?
Can I have a question? Okay.
Oh, I thought you were.
Has the city received any communication from any taxing districts? Okay. Or the public?
Public, yes. Got a whole packet full of them.
Okay. And those will be entered into the commission minutes?
Yes, they will.
All right. Thank you. All right. Concluding testimony from the applicant.
One second. So is the acknowledgement of written testimony, if any? There was a couple written, I mean, at least Mark Beeler, who is the realtor, couldn't make it tonight. If we could at least read his email or written response, just so that the public hears it, because I think it's important. Do you have that, or I can?
Where's it at, Chris? Is it in the middle?
Email to the city, so.
I mean, there's like 50 letters of support, it looks like.
Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, yeah. Good.
I have to sign in.
Yes, and please tell us who you are.
Michael Beninati. I'm with Pinnacle Real Estate Partners. I'm a partner owner. So Mr. Beeler sent an email today that was for public comment with regard to the mall. It was listed on two international websites, Crexi and LoopNet, also using a direct mail campaign both to regional and national mall developers. In all, we had about 30 NDAs that were signed, and of those, 25 declined to pursue to move forward for one reason or another. We had one verbal offer and 4 written offers. The verbal offer went nowhere. The developer admitted that they did not need the property. It was just an excess to their current development. One was rescinded after being submitted. Another one was a significant lowball offer of liquidation value, and the other 2 legitimate to include sufficient time, hopefully to get a TIF from the city for the redevelopment. Simon insisted on a 90-day close with both contracts, then a six-month close neither party would agree to do. Foster's is the only contract that was willing to undertake the framework to put their money and time at risk on this one. Sorry, I think his wife's in the hospital. He did this from the hospital this morning. So Simon has made it clear that if this does not close by the end of the month, it is unlikely the mall will continue operations as it is today. The mall is not in their long-term range plan. It is not, and there's no reinvestment in the mall. So the likelihood of the ceasing operations in the event of a TIF is not approved is highly likely, which we've discussed that this evening. The mall has been an eyesore for the lake area for several years, and the high vacancy rate continues to decline the physical structures. It's extremely poor representation of the lake area, not to mention the inconvenience that is caused to residents of the lake area and visitors coming to the lake for having such a limited amount of retail space. I want to emphasize the Foster and Legacy Group are the only developers that have put their personal monies at risk to see that the outlet mall continues its rich heritage, providing retail services to the lake. As the mall sits today, it would suggest that the lake is not a vibrant community as it once was, and brings to question the economic viability to the lake. We hope this new investment will continue to come to the lake. If this does not pass and the TIF request is declined, what message will we be sending to other business opportunities that may consider the lake for future expansion?
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem.
I'd like to ask for any concluding testimony from the applicant, please.
Just some of the concluding topics that were brought up. So I know when we're talking about the public finance portion and the, it was mentioned 58%, I've heard 30%. There's a lot of different percentages that are out there. Well, on the TIF policy, I mean, it specifically reads that the TIF applicants should not, this is the 15% of the total project cost for the TIF. It does not talk about the other incentives being included in that 15%. Now, what it does say is when you present a TIF plan, that you present all the public finance mechanisms that you plan to use, but it says, or as soon as you know they're going to use them. Well, within the transparency that we're trying to do here is we're giving every possible tax incentive piece that's out there. Any kind of public finance piece that's out there, we included that. We want to be as transparent as possible with you guys, and part of that is, let's say with the Fosters, we wanted to bring a partner that shares everything with you as well, because like, we have told some people is that we're going to see you in the community. We do not want to, look at somebody in the eye and they say, well, why did you bring this person to our community whenever, we don't agree with the process that's being done. So part of that process was in talking to developers, because we talked to, I'd say, 5 or 6 different retail developers, just trying to get somebody in here, because from our perspective, we always looked at the outlet mall as being a great deal. I mean, it's like we know it as being a great place at the Lake of the Ozarks. We had never really understood how difficult a lot of these things are until we got to be working with the legacy development team. There is so many intricate, there's so many intricate, just different deals to work with. It almost takes a strong team of a local developer and an outside developer to bring that together. The other item, just as far as the 15% TIF, if you go back and look at other projects that the city has approved, look at their TIF and then look at their total incentive package, because there's several that I could look at that are over 15%. I mean, if we were to go back and pull out all the TIFs, I think it'd be an important exercise that may help if that's a question that you still have. Now, when we are talking about the 50% of the tenants, I'll read you this item right here. Projects with reasonable indications submitted to the city's TIF council that upon review indicate a minimum of 50% of the retail commercial space is committed to viable tenants, which may be supported with signed leases of intent, or signed letters of intent, signed leases, or other written verifications of such tenants will be viewed with greater favor by the TIF commission and the city. So one is it's not an obligation, but two is that we have leases in place. All 27 of those tenants currently have leases in place. Some are month to month, some are longer term, but the thing is that 100% of those tenants are there. And if you want to talk about maybe an anchor tenant, our anchor tenant exists there, and that is one that the tax incentive doesn't pull any of that money from those existing places. So, as far as the, letters of financing. So in other TIF applications, there's typically one letter of financing. We included 2. One was from more of a local, smaller bank, and the other was from a larger outfit. So that what we look at is that we're probably going to have some kind of marrying of the terms, because this is such a big project. when you're talking about a $20 to $30 million project, which is most of what the TIFs have been done in the past in Osage Beach, it's easier for a bank to finance that. When you get up to $180 million, there's so many different components that it gets complex. So I just want to say that this is a complex process, and also in the process, this has been a very quick reckoning for us to get through it. And again, the reason is the urgent nature of the project. You've heard from several people at the mall, and I think it's one that the last email from Mark Beeler, the realtor, and that Simon does not have, let's just say, I don't want to speak on Simon's behalf, from Mark Beeler's information in that email, it seems that Simon does not have an interest in continuing operations at the mall. And that's my interpretation of it, but I'm just saying that when we look at that, how do we make sure that this doesn't get any worse? We think that we put together a plan that can do that. We also have some other LOIs and everything that we're happy to share, but due to the competitive nature of the project, we have not made that public. So if there's any questions you may have, we are happy to share that with you individually, or more of in a confidential nature, but it's one that if we share some of these LOIs, then there's other projects in the area that would try to go, get them to their project as well. So a lot of this, you guys not having the information is not out of a lack of us doing these things. It's out of the competitive nature of the project. So any questions, or I guess we can get.
We're getting, yeah.
Sure.
I agree with Mr. Spikerman. These lawsuits from Dan Lowe could impact bond financing. However, he's never been served with any lawsuits. He learned of them through this Business Journal article. I think that shows the seriousness of the opposing parties. He knows the investors. He's been dealing with them for a while. He's really relatively small amounts in terms of the total portfolio. And I'm confident that those are going to be resolved in a short amount of time. I wish we had tons of time. I wish we could work through every possible thing. Here, unfortunately, we're dealing with reality and not a perfect world. And every month that goes by, the situation grows worse at the shopping center. And we think it has a really, really amazing future. And hopefully we've shared enough tonight to share that vision and get you excited about what that possibility can be and what their future can be, because we could not be more bullish on the city of Osage Beach and the outlets as their future. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Questions from the commission to the applicant or city staff?
Got one here.
Are we talking about this one on your development plan? The one that was sent to us originally had some other properties. Now it doesn't look like you're doing or is it? I don't know. Is that in
So,
your?
For the TIF, it is specific to just like basically the mall. That's really where we are right now is
Okay.
we're focusing just on the TIF. We didn't want to bring in all, like when we're talking about the policy and it says disclose what other tax incentives you may be using. That's part of the policy. But as far as your decision tonight, it is solely on the TIF, that we didn't want to bring in into the TIF plan a bunch of other different mechanisms. So go ahead.
So when you talked about the 4 segments and that type of thing, there were the adjacent properties are not involved with this.
So,
And, well, there's 3 parts.
yeah, so it's as far as, I'm trying to think, because it's like when we're talking about the blighted area and the area that we've discussed, that is in the redevelopment area.
You had the bank, you had
Yes.
2 hotels,
And the 2
you had 2
hotels.
restaurants.
Well, it's, okay, so that is if we potentially purchase those in the future. So we've
Okay,
had
it's
conversations with those properties. If we do not buy them, there would be no obligation for them to participate in any of these kinds of financial structures. But here's the thing, is that if we don't include them, and let's say they want to be purchased in the future, the process to get them into the district is such a big process that we would not be interested in buying them in the future. So it's keeping the door open is really the item to mention here.
Can I ask one question? So the two properties that exist today, the hotels?
Yes.
Because that is mentioned in the plan, is not part of the 186 million, or it is?
That is not part of the $186 million.
But you did capture the revenue from hotels is in that schedule.
That is not from those hotels. It is from the new hotel potentially to be put on the property.
Okay.
And so, yes.
This is, I don't know, just looking.
Uh-huh.
Do you have enough parking or places for people to park?
Yes. There is, I mean, I think it's, how many parking spots are there? I mean, there's well over 1,000.
Yeah, it's thousands.
And you know, according to, basically, it's hard to envision those oceans of parking being full. But as far as with what we're talking about, because you see how many cars are there right now for the current tenants, they occupy about, I think about 120, 130,000 square feet. So with the added components that we're talking about, we're still well within the code of parking, so.
At the time the shopping center was developed, the national standard was about 7 stalls per 1,000 square feet of retail. Today, that standard is at about 4, and most jurisdictions are going down to 2.5. So we have plenty of parking.
Even with the 260 apartments and 120 rooms of a hotel?
Yes.
Plus this?
Yes.
Okay, I was counting and I was going,
Well, we would have to go back and get in, and this is, you know, kind of these things that, based on an approval, if we have, say, a conditional approval to where you say, hey, we approve this, we are recommending that the city council look at the parking. You know, because we've looked at that, we don't think there's any issue with parking. I think that this is something that if you guys approve and then recommend items, these are things that can continue to go on to the city council and then for final approval.
okay.
Don't go running off here, I got a question.
I think Ms. Griswold.
I can wait.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Well, so getting into the residential part.
Yes.
Because I don't want to speak for Osage City, you know, and the residents, like I'm here for Camden Schools. And so understanding the call, do we have an idea of how many students would potentially be here? Would we need to grow our OBE school that really wasn't well built to begin with?
By our design with the apartments, you know, we're looking at this as a very minimal impact for the school, if any, because the workforce housing is mainly your population that's your early 20s that have roommates in these apartments, that these are people that don't have families yet. What it does is it takes, let's say the people that are bartenders or people that are in retail, you know, that don't have families that want to be close to the area. Well, they're going to live here. That opens up more housing and outside of the district for people with families. So it'll kind of it relieves the stress of the housing crisis we're currently in. But I think if we want to look at how that impacts, I know that there's studies out there that talk about these workforce housing and how that impacts it. I think that's a good point for us to, you know, look at, and happy to, you know, if it's a approval or a recommendation to see how that would impact the school, we're happy to do that.
Because when we talk about affordable housing, so you're talking more about workforce housing, not really affordable housing, because affordable housing really is for those single moms with one to four kids.
Listen, affordable housing is a different, so yes, like the affordable housing is your single mom with like, because that is a different model from the workforce. Your workforce it's typically the people that don't have kids that are younger. And let's just say that it's more that I don't want to say dormitory like in college, but it's like after you get out of college and you get a job and then people kind of, you know, like the younger people cluster in an area. You don't have any of that right now. I mean, there's not like a place where you have, like, say, the 20-somethings, you know, live and they all kind of live in that area. It doesn't exist. And that's one that, you know, you see it in a lot of places, you know, they're vibrant communities where, you know, people live and they will walk to work, they will walk to get groceries, or they will walk to these different entertainment components. You know, I will tell you that a lot of times, you know, let's say older people don't want to be around, like if you've got, you know, kids and a family and everything, there's a lot of those distractions and a lot of these things that, you know, are not conducive to a family as much as, you know, as more of the workforce, so.
And so the school district has a policy where it doesn't approve anything over a 50-50 TIF?
Yes.
So that's good that yours is a 50-50 TIF. But
Yes.
I just wanted to put that out for also for people that are in, you know, learning, we're all learning together along this way. I will say that before I came here today, the school board meeting, we had it earlier just so we could be here, or I could be here. So we did discuss the concern for the residential piece. And so I just want everyone to know in the room, this isn't a personal thing for me. This is a board
Yes.
question.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, and like I said, you know, because it's my mother's background in education, you know, being she was the school board president, the sensitivities that we have, you know, that we want to make sure we impress upon you that when we were, you know, looking at this retail component, this was something that the city was mentioning to us, that there's the housing crisis and how is this solved? We want to be part of solving things. And listen, if this is one where we say, well, we don't want any apartments at all, we'll take it off and put another hotel on, or we'll figure out another use. But it's my understanding that that housing would be more important than having another hotel on the property.
Yeah, I would agree that that's a very important piece. Just wanted to know the impact for the schools, one way or the other or not. And then in the long run, I know we'll have, so we can just hit reserves for a while and then wait for 23 years and hopefully we have whatever you're proposing, 7 million a year or whatever.
Actually, you would get benefit, the school would get benefit immediately because, I don't want to say immediately, but the thing is there wouldn't be any loss immediately. The thing is with our project, once we build more, half of that money is going. So that's the thing is.
Yeah, I was just trying to budget for the extra students.
Okay, yes.
And the capacity.
I don't see there being the extra student.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, and it's just a question.
If you think about it, there's not going to be playgrounds for kids. This is not going to be housing that you're going to want, people are going to want to be there with their kids.
Okay.
I mean, it's just going to be shopping center and the people who probably work there share an apartment and not the people with the kids.
Right.
That's how I look at it.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
See, I've got, if this should get approved tonight and move on to the city, and you close on your property, when do you anticipate start moving these existing businesses to the front of the?
Yeah, okay, so, yeah, we would immediately start to have these conversations. I will point out one item, though. I just thought about this because when we're talking about the leases and, you know, talk about LOIs and leases and everything, we have had a handful of people extending like their month-to-month leases. We've had a handful that have extended a one-year lease. So I feel like there's a lot of these people have interest in us redeveloping the property. So I just want to point out that these one-year leases, to me, that kind of, you know, shows a commitment that they're committed to seeing us do something. Now, as far as the tenants moving to, you know, a designated area, you know, we'll immediately start those conversations. I think some of the bigger items are we're going to have to be doing some cost, you know, some costing on what we need to do just to fix things, because I know we've talked about before we move people in, we want to make sure there's no roof leaks. We want to make sure their air conditioners work. So let's just say, I mean, by next year, we would expect a consolidated mall to be done. So by the time we're here next year, next summer season, this is all complete. A parking lot's been redone. And then we're working on some of these other components construction-wise, which to me, that's going to just generate people coming back to the mall. They're going to go shopping and asking the store managers and store employees, Well, what do they have in store over there? Well, we're going to have signs showing what we have going on. I mean, it's basically, this is going to be a billboard for us to continue all this process of redeveloping everything. So I do think, it's important just to point out that, there's a lot of thought that's gone into how to do these, but if we're looking at the individual details that kind of get addressed here at the next step, we're continuing to work through this. And we appreciate that that there is concern there, because there is concern. We just need to make sure that we can get through the process. And this is the next item. Go ahead.
Okay, my question was very similar to what Gail had.
Yes.
Along the same lines, but the reality is that there is a workforce housing component to this, which is a massive shortage at the Lake of the Ozarks. From what I've heard, that we need thousands of additional units. The infrastructure's in the ground. The cost to do that today is incredible compared to what it used to be when I originally staked that project in 83, 84. My question to you is, if we end up having to build a bunch of apartments there probably won't be any problem leasing those out long-term, will there?
No, we would not anticipate a problem with leases. I mean, for us, we just want to be part of the solution to housing. Listen, we want to be part of the solution to the community. That's what we're here for. I mean, like, at the end of the day.
Second part of the question. All the money would come from leasing out those apartments would go a long way to making sure that that project is financially viable long into the future. Absolutely. And wouldn't it also protect the commercial development that might be in another location in there?
Yes. I mean, well, so when you look at like the live, work, play model of everybody, living in a place, you have your restaurants, you have your job, and then you live there. I mean, it's a popular model in the urban areas, and and especially like with the younger people too.
So again, as in the early 1980s, when Osage Beach was basically a wide spot in the road, I can tell you for a fact what took place is when that mall opened, it transformed the entire Lake of the Ozarks, not just Osage Beach. Osage Beach was a wide spot in the road then. So we have a chance to do that again, or we have a chance to see a black hole form in the middle of Osage Beach. That's just my view.
Yeah. Well, and I'd also point out, I'm a former mall employee as well. I mean,
there we go. Yeah.
I mean, when I was younger, I opened up the
Look
Tommy
at us now,
Hilfiger
Chris.
store, so it's one that it's near and dear to my heart as well. I grew up going to the movie theater there. I remember the days when it was a great place, and not just the mall, but also, there was the Fort Frontierland, there was the Hillbilly Town, there was a lot of these destinations for young kids, and we don't have that anymore. It's one of the things that we're lacking in the area, and what we're doing is bringing something that brings a lot of this back. By the way, we have LOIs from these entertainment components, so I know that I don't want to be bringing up these things because some of the comments that were had before the meeting, I think that we didn't want to touch on that because you guys haven't had a chance to review that yet. So you guys you'll be seen in due time. So I just want to mention that this is not something we don't have these. It's again the competitive nature that if this would have come out like at the time with the public hearing, people would have 45 days to look at what we're doing and go talk to the people we have and potentially get them over to other sites. Well, that just clouds the vision of now we got to go back and try to get them back on board. It's just, this is not a process that we are doing this on purpose to confuse the issue. It's due to the competitive nature. So. What's that? Yes, well. Well, yeah, obviously, I mean, there's just a lot of interest that's come to the Lake of the Ozarks since the pandemic. And so, we've been working on a lot of these projects here for quite some time. So anyway, yeah, go ahead.
So what's the impact on the first responders and how does that look?
Well, so, I mean, with the first responders, we discuss a lot of different items that kind of come out within the next step of everything. We would like to potentially have an office for first responders there, that way they're there on site, and if that's something how we can help facilitate through the CID, TDD, and these other deals, this is a benefit. So we want to look at how we can work together, because we don't want to have any issues. I know myself personally on the Santa Monica Pier, that I'm the chair of, I'm not sure if you guys know, but I do a lot of things all over the place, but we have a police substation on the Santa Monica Pier to handle these items. And one of the things that I was instrumental in doing was the fire trucks to get on the Santa Monica Pier for life safety, problems. The fire department didn't have anywhere to go, and there was no place to go, but we were able to find a temporary home for the fire department, and this was 2019 at some time. They've saved over 20 lives that I know of because the fact that they were able to respond on a timely manner.
Who pays for that?
So who pays for that? That would effectively, if we're, supplying a space for the first responders, because the mall office has a lot of room, that wouldn't cost anybody anything. I would say it depends on who is on, who's working, whatever that happens to be. But, it wouldn't cost anything because we already have the space.
Would you pay for the first responders or cost share? I know
So-
that some of the,
It
the
happens in
county.
the county with the sheriff's.
Yeah.
So, no, actually, here's the thing, is we have private security on site right now, and paying for a first responder, a sheriff's deputy of that nature, that's something that falls right in line of what we would like to see. We want safety. So that's, paramount to anything else, is that if you have some kind of issue, that's what goes to the top of the paper. That's what is the internet search. If it's like, oh, the new thing happened, there was a fire and this happened. We want this to be top of mind so that everybody understands your safety is first.
Any other questions?
I've got for the city.
Yes.
So I want to confirm that we have no other interest in a TIF outside of this?
But by interest, you mean, could you expand on that?
Well, has any other developer shown interest in discussing TIF opportunity for the mall?
I can confirm that the city has not received any formal application. I guess I would defer to the mayor or someone else if there's any whispers in the community, but I don't know.
See, I agree. We have to do something with that mall. There's no doubt about it, because you called it a black hole, and it will be.
It will be.
The question is this the right horse to get the work done?
It's the only one
And,
that I've seen.
and it's the only one that's presented itself at this point. With all due respect, I don't think you're horses, but
Look, this is just my point of view on this. I think the risk here is really limited because of the residential housing portion of it for workforce housing. If you level that thing and just use the water and the sewer and put residential workforce housing on it, you'd fill it up in nothing flat lake-wide. So the downside on this is I don't see any way that when you have a component in there that includes workforce housing at the Lake of the Ozarks, when we know we need thousands of units like that, I just don't see a downside.
Okay, just for clarification, the commission will have chance for comments? So if we have any other
Okay.
questions, or is there any other further testimony that the commission would like to hear? All right. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Mr. Spikerman.
Make a motion to close the public hearing portion.
Second.
Or already? Thank you.
Roll call vote, please.
I couldn't hear the motion.
Roll call.
Pardon me?
You couldn't hear the motion.
A motion to close the public hearing.
Tyler Becker,
Yes.
Fred Catcock.
Yes.
Dave Crane,
Yes.
Janice Tyler. Yes. Dan Fry. Here. Brad Rozier. Chief Paul Berardi.
Yes.
Brian Butts. Gail Griswold.
Yes.
Greg Hasty.
Yes.
James Grogan.
Yes.
All right, I believe that passes.
That was just the public hearing.
That was just to close the public comment, but thank you.
But I'm sure we're all ready
That was great.
for,
Yeah, no.
Hell, that was easy.
I would like to recognize.
yeah.
All right, I'd like to recognize Mr. Spikerman in regards to the presentation of the proposed resolution. And then there will be comments from the commission.
Thank you. Members of the commission, you should have a document before you that looks like this. It's entitled Resolution of the Tax Increment Financing Commission of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, approving the Osage Beach Outlet Mall Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Plan, designating the redevelopment area described therein, approving the redevelopment projects described therein, and expressing its recommendations to the Board of Aldermen of the City of Osage Beach. This document is a formal resolution that, if adopted, would do just as it says. It would express the commission's recommendations to the Board of Aldermen. On the first page here, the recitals, or start with the whereases, those essentially just document that a application has been filed with the city, the public hearing was held, and notice of the hearing was given. As you get down into the bottom of page 1 and onto page 2 are the sort of required findings of the TIF Act. 2A, the redevelopment area as a whole qualifies as a blighted area. It also refers to an affidavit of the developer to that nature. That is included as Exhibit 9 to the redevelopment plan. Onto page 2, letter B, that the redevelopment plan conforms to the comprehensive plan of the city. Attached as Exhibit 11 to the plan is a statement from the city planner conforming that fact. Elsewhere, we have estimated dates of completion that are set forth in the redevelopment plan. A plan for relocation, that's a state statutory requirement, and the plan just references the state statute. And then letter E, a little bit meaty, there's a cost-benefit analysis. I believe you've all been provided with copies, and the developer's consultant from IR went over it earlier in the hearing. It does require, if you look at the bottom of paragraph E, that the TIF Commission has enough information to evaluate whether the redevelopment project is financially feasible. So there's one item you should keep in mind, because that's a required component under the Act. F, redevelopment plan does not include any gambling establishment. That none have been proposed. And that the redevelopment area only includes the parcels that will be directly benefited by the proposed redevelopment projects. If you're willing to make those findings, then you would go on to 3, that you would recommend that the Board of Aldermen approve the plan, approve the projects, designate the redevelopment area as a redevelopment area under the TIF Act. The TIF Act itself only references the commission making recommendations for or against the plan. But if there are any additional recommendations, you can do that in the form of a separate motion. They would not be binding, but they would be educational and perhaps persuasive to the board.
You could do both.
I'm sorry.
You could have both. If it goes one way or the other, vote yes or no across the board. We could also have an additional motion with our recommendations for more detailed items.
That is correct, and in case anyone couldn't hear, she said whether you could make a approve or disapprove the plan straight up or down, and then have a separate motion to make additional recommendations one way or the other, for presumably for different components or details related to the project.
And then this plan could not be edited one way or the other once we vote?
Sure can be.
It
By the
cannot.
alderman?
Once this, once you vote, or actually now that the hearing has been closed, it cannot be amended in a way that changes the general land uses, changes the boundaries, or the general nature of the redevelopment project without us repeating this public hearing process. Now, if there's a minor amendment that doesn't impact one of those sort of major things, then the amendment could be made with just notice to the taxing districts.
You didn't mention the dollar amount. Is that not binding?
The dollar amount would be binding.
Okay.
Any
The 186?
material
Okay.
change to that's going to be change
Something.
of the general nature and trigger a new
Okay.
hearing.
To clarify, the dollar amount of the total project or the dollar amount of public assistance?
Public assistance. And I guess it could go down. It couldn't. It's just going up. That would be a material change.
Okay.
Okay, it could go down.
Good.
Okay.
Everything seems
Oh,
like
it's
it's
going
going
to do
up.
that. It's going to go down.
In the unlikely event it goes down.
I was teasing.
I don't know. This is my second board meeting tonight. Like, my brain hurts a bit.
Yeah, meeting after meeting.
Any other questions for Mr. Spikerman? All right, seeing none, would any commissioners like to make a comment?
No, but we'll make a motion.
I just have a couple things to say. This city has been progressive for the last 20 years. If everybody in here has been here for that long, they've seen the TIFs at where Hy-Vee and Target are. They've seen the TIFs where Deerberg's is, where Hobby Lobby, where Arrowhead is. The city has taken risks, and every one of these risks has shown to be a positive for the city. 22 years ago, you had to go to Columbia to have a Home Depot. They had no Lowe's. They had no options other than Carl's to go grocery shopping. And if the city didn't take a risk to do this, it wouldn't. I mean, how many people need to go to Jeff City or Columbia or Springfield now to go shopping? They don't. And it's because the city took a risk, and the city has proven that risks are fruitful for the betterment of the community and the city. With the city taking risks, it brings people here, and it makes for other people to take risks and to bring in new businesses, new housing, new builders, and I think it's a positive thing. So,
Just on that note, when you give big corporations and, you know, the Home Depots of the world and the Hy-Vees and the Woods a tax incentive advantage, you do shut down the Carls of the world. And we have a lot of small businesses still in the area, and when you give TIFs to businesses that already that compete with already existing businesses, I actually disagree with that. This is not a board stance. This is maybe just something to consider. And I know probably Mr. Foster agrees that when you're looking at the businesses that you're bringing into the mall potentially, if this all goes, how would they compete with the mom and pops of the world? I mean, Lake Ozark gave a TIF for a winery right across the street from my winery, and that's a separate issue. But that's not rewarding, the hard work of other people, and that's a different conversation. But I'm just saying, when you're looking at TIFs and we get excited about big box stores coming in and Applebee's and everything, which are great, are they really helping our community? And are they really what Lake of the Ozarks is about? So you have to kind of keep, and I know the Fosters care about the vintage lake and the community values and keeping it true to Lake of the Ozarks, and I'm sure they'll consider that. But just in the ideas of TIFs and bringing and seeing as bringing in a Home Depot as something as as progress and something to champion. I just question that approach. Just something to consider.
Any other comments from the commission?
Well, I just think that, we always need to consider all these people sitting in the room that are employees of these stores. I think that there's a potential for this thing to be transformational to the city of Osage Beach, that it could be the center of the city again. And people would enjoy working there and be able to go home to their apartment just a few steps away or a bicycle ride away. And we have the potential to be, as we've been in the past many times, an area that everyone looks to for the new and the better. When the mall came in, and I think it opened in '84, it transformed this lake. Not just Osage Beach. Osage Beach was kind of a small spot then. Can't remember whether this city hall had been built then or not. I don't believe it had. I'm not sure whether it even had the first city hall when that was built. It's been too long ago, I can't remember. I staked that first city hall too. But I think we have an opportunity here. We could take a risk and lose, but I think the risk if we don't do something is going to be substantially more. I don't believe that we want that thing closed down and sitting there gradually turning into something like, say, Big Shot. So.
Oh, are you the minute taker? Pretty much. Oh, you got your work cut out for you tonight.
Any other comments from the commission?
I think another way to look at it, if it deteriorates, we may not have to worry about big boxes here. You know what I mean? Because it's like, it's just a process that just keeps turning and turning, and all of a sudden, it's almost like a cancer. It starts growing and growing and growing. We have an opportunity tonight to change that and to take a positive step forward in order to preserve what we have and make it much better versus letting it deteriorate. I mean, there's no upside to not doing something to the mall. I just can't, I don't see an upside. I see potentially financial issues. We're putting a lot of eggs in your basket because you're the guys that's, we're putting out 11%, but you're going to have to come up with all the rest of it. So our faith really ends up here. And the rest of it, I don't see a downside financially. And besides that, we give it the aldermen and they got to deal with it.
All righty.
Sorry, Kevin.
All right.
Was there a motion?
Seeing no other comments, is there a motion?
Going back to a little bit of what Gail said, we bring a lot of box stores in here, but, have you ever been to Wobbly Boots? We've been doing a raffle for the Elks Lodge for the Veterans Committee up there every Friday and Saturday. I'll tell you what, there is not a parking place in that local-owned restaurant on Friday and Saturdays. They are packed. You go by some of the box restaurants, they got a lot of parkings left over. So the local people and the people like our little community restaurants and our stores.
Absolutely.
So I think they draw, and I think they do just as good, if not as better than the box restaurants.
Yeah.
And that's why they don't get happy when we give them their competition tips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a motion to adopt the resolution and recommend the redevelopment plan favorably to the Board of Aldermen?
I'll make the motion.
Motion?
I'll second.
All right. Roll call vote?
James Grogan,
Yay.
Greg Hasty,
Yay.
Gail Gerswald,
Yay.
Brian Butts, Paul Berardi,
Yeah.
Brad Rozier, Dan Fry, Janice Tyler,
Yes.
Dave Crane,
Yes.
Fred Catcott,
Yes.
Alderman Becker.
Yes. All right.
Now
I
you can
believe that
clap.
passes. All right. Thank you to everybody here tonight. Thank you to the commissioners. This meeting's adjourned.
Thank you all.
Thank you.